Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Hello out there. It is tea time. Time for tea. How's everybody doing today? So good to see you guys. I just actually posted myself blending up what is gonna be one of my tea time recipes so that if y'all are struggling with figuring out what kind of tea to have, you will have your own recipe very soon for a couple of different things. I don't know if I'm going to come up with my own tea blend, but this one I have to share with you guys. I'm so excited. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing? It's Saturday. It is the last Saturday in March. Yes, we are fully at the end of the first quadrant, the first quarter. All those intentions and dreams and things that you cast out into the world at the beginning of the year, you should be looking on to see, how you're feeling about the things that you said you wanted, right? You should be looking on to see that. I initially was going to shift today's tea time to be more of a focus on reflecting on our intentions for the last 3 months. But I realized that I had one more Saturday in March. I thought today was going to be April. So it's next week. So next Saturday, which I think is April 5th, we're going to be doing our IQ review. IQ review is our intentions quarterly. And it's literally to sit down and look back at the things that you have been dreaming up for yourself and thinking about, what did you actually turn into a goal and work towards, or things that you may not feel so good about. And because that's ultimately what we want to do, is we want to do the work that it's going to require for us to move towards our greatness. But we want to do it with some ease. I'm not into the stress out business. I'm tired of stress. We want to create success without stress. Who's with me? So if you want to lean into more easeful exploration of how you create the life you want, easeful manifestation, easeful, just expression of your life, then you definitely want to do the IQ review with me next week. And we'll do that, fingers crossed, at the end of every quarter. Because I do feel that if we were more intentional, about looking at our life through the lens that we do everything else that matters. So like the kids go to school, you have semesters in school, and you make sure that every semester you're ramping up, you're looking at their report cards, and then you go to work and you do the same thing. You're ramping up with work and you have your goals for the quarter and you're doing the things. And then when it comes to life, like your regular life, like your love space and your money and your health, it's just like, January, and then maybe I look again December. Okay, that don't work. And so we're going to shift it up a little bit. And I'm going to be supporting myself and you all with intentions quarterly. So we're going to take a check-in. So next week, Saturday, make sure you tune into tea time for that. Now, today we are going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on my IG because I'm live on IG as well as on YouTube. So I'm going to put today's conversation, which I know you guys are probably very familiar with, right? You're probably very familiar with these 3 things. And I'm pretty sure that maybe just harassing you. Yeah. So the 3 things that we're going to be talking about today are actually, I'm calling them mindset bullies, right? And I feel that they're bullies because if you look at the way that your thought patterns work, some of the thoughts that you think are a bit more aggressive than other thoughts. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but like how you'll be thinking about something that's not necessarily optimistic in view, but it doesn't give you this ultimate sinking feeling that can literally make you feel like you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, right? That's not what it is. You may have You may have some doubt, some self-doubt thoughts, but they're not crippling, or they're not haunting you. Um, what I would say about these three is that these are the ones that are recurring. These are the ones that are, how you'd say, the ones that keep you up at night. Yeah. These are the ones that become the monsters in your everyday life. Okay. So for today's conversation, it is stop guilt, blame, and shame from stealing your joy. And I will say full out, like I have conversations every week. And I don't know if this is you, but I tend to end up in a lot of coaching conversations just because people call me and we end up talking about stuff and I end up in a coaching conversation. So this particular topic came about because I was in a conversation with somebody near and dear to my heart this week. And we literally were on, like at the end of the conversation, we both had to go, we both had meetings, and guilt came up. And I said, you know what, this is a good topic to talk about because I didn't get to actually have the conversation with the person. And as I was dissecting it and preparing for today's episode, I realized that it's really three bullies that work in that same kind of very aggressive way. And that aggression of mental slavery is oftentimes what steals your joy. It is what sometimes paralyzes us from moving forward. And so I wanted to tackle not just the guilt, but the other two ride or dies that roll with guilt a lot, which is blame and shame. And so usually when you are finding yourself in this space where you're haunted by guilt, right? It's also one of the ways that you can say, okay, so if I'm feeling a lot of guilt, then maybe there are places where blame and shame are also showing up for me that I'm not necessarily paying attention to or I'm not aware of. Okay. So we're going to talk about these mindset bullies. And of course, I don't like talk about nothing unless I'm going to share how you are going to navigate these things or how you're going to combat them. Because when you hear about bullies at school with kids and bullies on the internet, you're not just navigating, you're not just managing the bullies. No, you have to fight. You have to literally pull out your boxing gloves and decide to, yeah, all right, we're going to face each other and we're going to deal with the team. And that's our mission for today. Okay. First things first, though, I wanted to make sure that we checked in with our tea. So my tea blend that I have today is actually a hot chocolate blend. I like to call it healthy hot chocolate. And that's because I make it in my Vitamix. It's a recipe I learned when I was going through my treatment for cancer. So I worked with a holistic healer who used herbs, and I went liquid vegan. And I worked with him to heal myself. And because of how sometimes it can be really difficult to be drinking herbs and, blend up soup and thing every single day, he would make me treats sometimes. And this was one of the treats that he not only made for me, but he gave me the recipe. And he don't give out recipe easy. So he actually gave me the recipe for this hot chocolate. And it has all kinds of goodness in there. It has nuts in there. It has oats. It has molasses. And so that's what I'm having this morning. What are you having? Make sure you grab your tea, make sure you grab your coffee so we can have this very good conversation. I'm also going to go ahead and pull our card for today. You know how we talk about intention being the root of all the things that we're doing to transform our lives. So as we step into this space of guilt, blame, and shame, we're going to be pulling a card and then we're going to dive right in. One of the ways that I actually want to examine guilt, blame, and shame is how it shows up in love, in health, and in wealth creation. Because these are the three primary areas that we spend a lot of our time thinking about. Even when things are going great, sometimes we may be harboring feelings of guilt about areas that we think are going well, like, oh, nothing's wrong with my love life, but you actually harbor a lot of guilt. Oh, nothing's wrong with my parents and my parenting. I love my kids, and you feel some guilt in that space. So we're going to be looking through the lens of these three areas of life and determine what how it could be showing up for you. What ways are you leaning into to these mindset bullies and are not serving you? So our card for today is I am my true essence. I am my true essence, which is really lovely. If you look at the picture, it's a really lovely card. And the intention or the affirmation says, I yield to the universal essence that dwells deep within me, and I allow this to guide my thoughts, words, and actions. Perfect card for the perfect conversation. I yield to the universal essence that dwells deep within me and allow this to guide my thoughts, words, and actions. Okay? So we're talking about the part of you that knows you are beyond the guilt, beyond the blame, beyond the shame, and how you can lean into that to actually support your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Now, when you think about guilt, right? What the way that guilt occurs to me is like it has a grip on our life, right? That's really how guilt occurs to me. It's literally something that you feel can make you have a feeling of being responsible or regretful for a perceived offense, whether the offense is real or the offense is imagined. And it's something that like it has your mind in a grip. And sometimes you can actually feel guilt in your heart. Guilt is something that you can actually feel in your heart as well, but it literally feels like it's gripping you. And then blame now is where you are assigning responsibility for a fault or wrong to either yourself or to somebody else. You'll be surprised at how much we blame ourselves. We find fault with ourselves and find fault with our actions. And even sometimes before we act, we're finding fault with our thoughts or our desires. Okay. And what about shame? Shame is one of those areas where I know for sure, for me, it has been an Achilles heel for moving forward a lot in my life. A lot of feeling around shame, or even after you take an action, this is one of the ways that your mind sets your action steps forward back. You got that? Shame is one of those type of mindset bullies that makes the steps that you take forward feel like you're taking a step back, because it literally is like a painful feeling of humiliation, caused by consciousness of either wrong or what you perceive as something wrong or what you perceive as something foolish, where you might think that, boy, you're just so stupid. You might run these little mindset gremlins around telling you that you don't have no sense, telling you how you look like, that thing that you did was stupid. That's how shame shows up. Okay. Now, when you are looking at how these three mindset bullies can really affect your life, we talked about stagnation, and it's mental stagnation. It's action stagnation. It's dream stagnation. And when I talk about stagnation, while your dream may be stagnant, or your goal may be stagnant, or your growth in that area may be stagnant, you're still growing. The guilt and the blame and the shame, that part of your thought process, that's actually what grows when it stagnates everything else, right? And so what we're talking about today is really how to identify when these different things are coming into your life and are causing you to get into this space of being really crippled. All right. So let's first of all talk about guilt and the grip that guilt has on our lives. In the space of love, I want you to imagine a woman who's always been driven. And this, I think, is a story that resonates with many women who want to be homemakers and who want to also, work the late nights, grind, press hard, and climb that career ladder. And when that same woman, when you get into a relationship now, you're now struggling to balance your personal ambitions for your career with the time and energy that a relationship demands. And this is actually one of the areas that the love relationship that you're getting into can be with a love partner, like a spouse or a spiritual love partner, or it can be like with kids. I know a ton of women who feel the grip of guilt when it comes to balancing that space with your children and work and wanting to grind, or even the guilt that you feel between having a love partner and having time for your kids and managing that. And how do you actually combat the thoughts that are in your head that make you feel like you cannot do both things? So it creeps, the guilt can sometimes creep in every time that you choose to do a work commitment over like a date night or a play date if it's with your kids, and what you find is that it starts off kind of like feeling like a pang in the stomach. And then another time you start to feel like, in your heart, and then your mind just kind of going. So the first time it might feel like a little bit of a niggling kind of, oh, so you're not going to bother to do the work, tonight. You're going to go out. Well, you have this report due tomorrow morning. And what's going to happen if the report don't finish on time? Suppose you wake up late, and that's literally the program that starts running in your mind's eye, and you start to question your dedication, whether it's your dedication to work or it's your dedication to your family, to your loved ones. And you start to wonder if maybe the dedication to the work commitment, maybe that makes you unworthy. That makes it the situation where you can't have both. And maybe you can't have the love that you want, because if I'm going to be grinding heavy, that means that, I don't have time to create love in my life. Okay. So this is one of the ways that the grip of guilt can really show up in the space of love. And when you start to think those thoughts consistently, and you can actually recognize yourself having those thoughts over and over again, it means that what you've done is you've now started to allow the grip of guilt to cover you, to hold you like this. Instead of your lover hold you up and I love you up, it's not the lover hold you up and I love you up. It's the guilt. Instead of going into the bed at night and having this wonderful lovemaking experience where you feel wrapped in an abyss of post lovemaking joy, you're over there wrapped up in the sheet and your mind is just spinning because you're like, can I creep out of the bed to go to the laptop? It's real. Okay. And what you have to recognize when those things are happening is you have to recognize the intention that you have set behind your love relationship and the intention that you have set behind your work relationship have to be aligned with each other. Oftentimes, because you find yourself in one before the other, like maybe it is that you're in your dream love experience right now, or maybe you are already a parent and you know how that works. And now you're introducing this new thing into that space. And you have to kind of now figure out how to make the two things work together, right? That's when you usually miss the step of setting a clear intention for the new thing that has entered your life and addressing the old thing that's already there. So you see, when we talk about setting intentions and daily affirmations for yourself, you want to get into the habit of doing it in a mindful way. Not just, sometimes you'll see me come on every week and I'll pull a card. That's great. Beyond the pulling of the card in the moment, you also want to get into the habit of reflecting on things that are entering your space. We call it segment intending. And I would have shared about it before on this show. I think I might have to actually do just a show on segment intending alone. This is a good example of a great place to actually use segment intending to get out of the grip of guilt. If you see yourself already in a space where you're feeling guilty about the way that you're spending your time between your love life and your workspace, now is a great time to introduce segment intending. Decide for yourself before you step into the thing. You wake up in the morning, you know that today is one of those days where you're gonna have both things coming at you. You know, maybe you set up some time for your lover later in the evening, and you know you have this work stuff going on. In the morning, first thing, sit down for 5 minutes, guys, and think about what if I could have it any way that I want, what would it look like? If I could have the balance between the two things any way that I want, what would that be? And write that down. And that becomes your intention. If you can't think of anything, pull an intention card. That's what they're for. They're to help you with the thoughts, because sometimes what is true is that we don't have the optimistic train running in our minds and we need a little help. So pull a card. Today's card was I am my true essence. So when you're thinking about, well, what is my true essence? What is my true essence in love? What is my true essence in my work life? Think about how you can make those two things work together. And I can guarantee you guys, it literally only takes a couple of minutes. So don't just jump into the day, right? Allow yourself 5 minutes in the morning to think through what is the intention that you have for this space. Because what happens with the guilt grip is if you don't have something that can immediately speak to it when it shows up, then the grip of guilt is going to keep growing. When you start having the guilt thoughts, if you don't have something that says, oh, no, that doesn't serve me. That's not the way that my head is going to work today. And literally, I will walk around shaking my head sometimes like, no, that's not working for me. I intended to create a great love experience that complements my life. And what that does for me is it helps me to have a conversation with my partner or a conversation with my kids that says to them, this is what I have going on right now. So we're not going to be able to spend as much time as we thought. I won't be able to spend all night with you, but I definitely want us to have an amazing dinner. That's better than keeping in your head this big deadline, not saying anything, and then being at the table looking at your watch every minute, not being present with the love partner. And that's kind of how we end up doing it, right? We keep doing this and checking and, oh my gosh, wondering if an email going to pop up that does not serve you when you are actually trying to move forward in the relationship or bring the person in a path that serves both of you together. What will actually serve you is knowing what you want ahead of time so you can set the intention before stepping into the situation and set yourself up for success. All right. Now we're going to move into blame. So we talked about the grip of guilt. Now we're going to talk about the barrier of blame. The barrier of blame to your growth, to your ability to achieve what you want. Do any of these resonate with you? Are you somebody that struggles with the guilt grip or the blame barrier? Mm-hmm. Yeah. My person on YouTube? Yeah. If you're a person that sees yourself in one of these, maybe it's not in the love space, maybe it's in the health space. I know for me, the blame game is something that I use all the time, right? All the time, because I'm somebody that has not historically in my past life liked to exercise. I love a yoga. I will do Pilates. I love riding a bike. But to be disciplined enough to actually do the work, oh, Lord have mercy, let me tell you, not all the time. Not all the time. And so when you think about blame as a barrier for your growth, and we look at the health space, you may want to consider someone that blames their family for health challenges. So maybe it is that, for example, cancer. Initially, when I was going through the discovery phase, the first time I got diagnosed with cancer, I was going through the discovery phase, and I was so sure that there's no way that cancer is in my body. There's absolutely zero way that cancer is in my body because I don't have no family history. And what the medical world has done for us is it has created a situation where, diabetes or hypertension or high blood pressure or cancer, we have all these different things that are in our DNA based on family history. And because of that, what happens now, which is very interesting, right? What happens is, yeah, we got the sugar in my family, we got the diabetes, we got it in my family, or yeah, my grandma had hypertension and my mom had hypertension, so I'm gonna have hypertension too. Sound familiar? It's actually a form of blaming a guys, and we don't realize how by actually putting that blame game in place, you don't think you're blaming, but that's actually what you're doing. You're setting yourself up to allow this dis-ease to reside in your body. A lot of times we don't recognize that when it comes to our health, one of the reasons why there is this historical family thing is because of how we eat. And when you're raised in a family that has a particular dietary practice, you end up eating the same things. And that is how you end up training your body and the cells in your body to behave the same way. Now, imagine if you come into this world and you go to the doctor, the first thing they ask you about is family history of illness and ailments, and you recognize that this thing, it runs in the family, right? Or you have the strain, that it's the DNA, the blood strain, the cells, or whatever, BRCA, whatever. You can be proactive in creating an intention for your well space that does not look like that result. So instead of just kind of waiting around for it to happen to you, or accepting that this is your lot in life because historically that's how your family has shown up, you can choose something different for yourself. And you can choose to create that instead of sitting in blame of the genetics that could potentially create this situation, or maybe have created the situation. Instead of sitting in the blame about it, first of all, recognizing that it's blame. And then, second of all, deciding what you want that is going to be different. You get to choose. And many times we give up that choice because we are not actually present to the fact that we get to choose. We get to choose. Okay? And so as you are dissecting how to combat the blame barrier, right? You might look at your intention card and work through it with your intention setting, work through it with affirmations, your sticky notes all around you, right? Work through, journaling and being open with yourself about where historically this thing has come from. This is one of the places that you can actually raise in therapy. Maybe it is a situation where you're going into your therapist's office or finding a coach, a health coach that can support you with moving beyond the barriers that exist in that blame game. This is a great place for you to get a nutrition coach, for example. And blame shows up in other areas as well when it comes to putting a barrier between where you are and where you want to be. We just talked about it in health creation, but in wealth creation, blame is also very popular. Wealth creation, blame is popular. You're blaming the people that aren't giving you the opportunity, the job. You're blaming the economy for not allowing you to build the wealth you want to build. Or you're blaming inflation for not allowing you to be able to save or to grow your investment accounts. There are different ways that it can show up in your life, and your job is to be aware of what the thoughts are telling you you are not capable of, so you can address those thoughts with something different. I can tell you categorically, I have seen where persons have blamed external circumstances for their inability to build wealth. And they're so sure of that belief that it's the external circumstance that there is nothing in their life that can show up that is opposite to that. And yet still, when you look around, people in the same exact circumstance, because we're all in the same economy, we're in it. We are in the same economic situation. So how is it that this person over here can create and grow and be blessed, and you over here sitting down blaming all the external things can't? The rain falls on the just and the unjust. The sun shines in the same way. So you have to really start to think about, well, what is it about me that has me believing that I can't create the same amazing wealth opportunities that somebody over there is creating? It's up to you. It's up. You have the choice. It's up to you. And if you're sitting in it right now, if you're sitting in the pain of lack and the pain of scarcity, if you're sitting in it right now, it may be difficult for you to accept what I'm saying. It may be difficult for you to accept that you have the choice to step away from blaming external circumstances for your current situation. But all I'm asking you to do in this moment, even if you can't accept it, is to at least acknowledge that you understand it. One of the key things to get, guys, that was a major mind shift for me, it took me a little while, is that a belief is a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over again. That's all it is. A belief is a thought that you keep thinking over and over again. And one of the ways that you can recognize that something, that a thought is becoming a belief, is because you're talking about it a lot too. You hear yourself talking about it over and over again. You're talking about the economy. You're talking about gas price. You're talking about the price in the supermarket. You're talking about who running for election and who is president and what them going to allow or not allow. You're talking about the wall where a bill where you can't cross, forget your papers. You're talking about all the different ways that your bank account is your bank is against you every time something happens, them not reversing the charge. You're talking about the job you can't get or the promotion that your boss not giving you. Your belief is that your ability to get to what you want is external to you. And that belief is a blame belief. And that blame is a barrier to your financial growth, to your wealth creation. I hope you're with me. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I hope so. So the way that we are going to combat, this blame barrier, right, is that you are going to utilize all the different kinds of affirmative thoughts so that you can build new beliefs, because that's ultimately what it boils down to. It's you building new beliefs and highlighting the importance of taking your personal responsibility. You have to take your 100% responsibility versus all the external things that are going to be external anyway. If you sit down in the lie, in the construct that these external situations are what are going to dictate my future, then that lie has now become your truth. And that's what belief does. What you got to do is you have to put your affirmative thoughts around you so that when those blameful thoughts come up, you have something to say, and you have to take your 100% responsibility. Yes, the economy is doing this, so that means I have to do whatever I have to do. You get what I'm saying? All right. Third and final mindset bully that we're tackling today is shame. And shame is a silencer. Ooh, let me tell y'all something. The silence of shame will keep you stuck in situations and circumstances that are literally sucking you dry of the joy you want for your life. And it does not have to be that way. There's so many things that I have felt shame about in my life. Shame from my parenting to my own life, like things that I have done, things that I have encountered. And the shame has me silent Because what shame does, is it literally mutes your ability to articulate the lie that is in your mind about a situation. It's like a silent war. It whispers tales of you're unworthy. It whispers tales of you can't come from behind this shadow. It whispers like darkness around your brightest dreams. It tells you that you are not fit for the life that you want. You can't have the love that you are dreaming about. You can't create the wealth that you desire because you're not smart enough for financial success. You didn't go to school for that. You never graduate with your degree. You are born from a teen pregnancy, and therefore you are always going to be in lack. You never saw healthy relationships when you were growing up, so you can't have a healthy relationship. You've had issues with your health in the past, and so you can't foster healthy relationships going forward. Shame builds walls around your heart. It isolates you with fear. That's what shame does. And so what it tends to do now is it creates situations where you don't speak. You feel shame because you maybe have observed your parents act from a shameful place. You don't have any money, and yet because money has become this thing that is so powerful and feels like it's what makes you a good person or what makes you a worthy person, and you are broke. Your bank account is not reflecting what people say is worthiness. So you go out with your friends and them ordering drinks and you can't afford it and you feel shame. And what is that? You're not going to talk about the shame. Or if you say something, you joke it off. Boy, I'm never get paid, so I'm not gonna drink tonight. The man stay. And like however it comes up for you. Maybe it is that your relationship is not where you want it to be because of all different kinds of circumstances. And your couple's friends are accustomed to seeing you together and you feel shame about the place that your relationship is in right now. And so you lie and act like everything is okay. Or you feel shameful so you don't go out. Shame also shows up when it comes to men and women. Men feel a great deal of shame when they aren't able to provide for or show up in a way with their love partner that they think is how they're supposed to show up. You feel shame. And so what happens is you hold things, you withhold from your love partner, you withhold from your woman what's really going on inside. You cover it up, you avoid, you disappear, you go out to your friends and you act like everything is okay because you are too ashamed to tell her that you're struggling right now. So you feel shame, and shame silences the truth that could set you and your relationship free. Things aren't going the way that you thought your relationship should go, it's not going in that direction. And therefore, instead of speaking up, you silence yourself, or you don't actually say what's in your heart because you don't want to expose yourself for fear of being hurt even more. Shame is a silencer. Shame is what prevents you from calling your bill collectors. Shame is what prevents you from answering them when they call you. Shame is what prevents you from responding to the email that the bank sends you when your credit card bill is overdue. Shame silences you. But I'm here to say, it doesn't have to be that way. And I know it because a lot of these examples that I have given are things that I have lived through, things that I used to do in my life that I am now doing differently. And I am reaping a completely different set of results because I have decided that I am not going to be silenced by shame. I am going to silence the shame. And you do not have to be silenced by shame. You have to silence the shame. And the way that you silence the shame is by being courageous enough to be vulnerable. Sometimes it requires you to say, I feel weak because I'm not able to give you what you need in this relationship. Do you know how freeing it is to speak of what you feel ashamed about? It's like you're wearing handcuffs and carrying a big block on your shoulders that weighing you down. And you open your mouth, and all of a sudden you can stand and breathe again. That's what it feels like. I'm telling you. And the reason why I'm talking about shame last, guys, is because of the three, I would say that shame is the thing that makes you grow old fast. Because it literally is like a shadow of just sadness that sits within you and blocks the light that you are from coming out. I'll give you a simple example for myself, and then I'll give you another one for my client. Money used to make me feel very ashamed. I recognized the shame when I was an adult, but it was actually from when I was a child. I recognized the shame from a childhood experience, but it was when I was an adult. And I didn't realize that in that moment of recognizing that I felt ashamed of my situation, my financial situation as a child, I didn't recognize that that was creating a belief in me that I was not worthy of wealth. I grew up in an area in Jamaica called Mountain View. That was one of the areas that I grew up in with my grandparents and so forth. We lived in a what would be considered actually a middle class neighborhood, would be considered that. But there was a lot of lack around us. And I remember when I was going to my high school, which was what they call uptown. So in Jamaica, you have a concept of uptown and downtown. There's no midtown. Okay. Uptown, downtown, and I suppose like where I live in Atlanta, you'd consider, where I live in Atlanta, high end, and it's just really based on economic status. It's really based on the value of your housing, the stores that are around you, how much economic freedom you have, dispensable income, all of those things, disposable income, all of those things, right? And so there was a lot of lack in that particular area, right? Even though I would say our home was fine from my perspective. And I remember when I started going to this school that would be considered in a high-end area. It's an all-girls school. And at that time, there were a lot of very wealthy kids going there. And when I first dropped into the school and I first started going, I didn't realize that I was different financially. Like I don't have no concept at that time, 9. But I knew I was different because they would talk about things and places that they're going and things that they're doing that I never know nothing about. But everybody has their thing, their whatever. But here, what happened to me now? Hurricane Gilbert. A hurricane came, and Hurricane Gilbert literally flattened Jamaica. And there were areas that got back electricity, because electricity was one of the things that back then, just based on how the grids were set up and power lines and stuff, everything was above ground. So electricity was one of the things that went away for safety, because you don't want to be walking around on water and electricity shock and all them things, right? So electricity went away. And what ended up happening, of course, is that the areas that were more affluent got back electricity before the areas that were less affluent. It was just a thing. And even when you didn't have electricity from the regular grid, you had generators. I never even have a concept of what a generator was where I was growing up. I didn't know what that was, a generator. Generate electricity without electricity. How does that work? Like, I had no concept. Anyway, schools reopened and we still hadn't gotten back electricity. A lot of the areas in the affluent parts of the country, certainly in our parish and town, had gotten back electricity. And there were times where my grandfather would come and pick me up from school. Usually it would be emergency. He doesn't, I would have to take the bus under normal circumstances. And this particular instance, I was thinking, okay, well, we're in the middle of our hurricane recovery. There's debris still on the roads, everything. I was thinking that I was going to get a ride home. Or maybe in reflection, maybe I didn't know that I was getting picked up, but everybody else was getting picked up. So I was just sitting, waiting, thinking, okay, well, somebody's going to come get me. There were no cell phones, people. Okay. Eventually, I didn't get picked up. I had to actually get a ride home with somebody. One of the men that came to pick up his children, I was literally sitting there waiting with this other young lady, this other child. And I think there were maybe two other persons. And he's like, is your mom or dad coming? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, it's getting late because it was dark. I'll take you home. And so I jump in the car and everything. And he was driving and he was like, where do you live? And I said, oh, I live Mountain View. And he's like, okay. He's like, all right, well, I can't take you home first. I'm going to take home my daughter first, and then I will take you home. So I was like, no, but that don't make any sense. Why would you do that? But I sat with it. And then I went on the drive. And the drive was up this hill. And I saw these beautiful houses. And I said, the house, them nice. House, them nice. And I saw a lot of light. It's like there was electricity there and only there. Everything just light up, bright up. And it was just like, oh, maybe electricity came back. And I just haven't gotten home yet to see and be happy with my family that we got back electricity. I would drive and I would get to this big house and gates open and she hops out and she goes off and he says bye and he goes inside, I guess, to tell his wife that he's taking home this little girl. And let me tell you something, guys. I've only had this experience one time and that was enough. As we are leaving the mountain and driving down to what was Mountain Views, right? I literally observed the distinct difference between affluence and lack. And it wasn't even so much about getting to my house, it was just observing in Jamaica, where you see an affluent community with the big house and the generators and the lights and the palm trees and all the things. And then you descend literally into another area that was full of debris and downed poles and gone roof, zinc fence, people just not having. I sat in the back of that car and I was like, what? I don't think I could cuss then, but let me tell you, but it could have cussed some bad word because it was like the biggest aha moment I had. And I think for myself, I think in that moment, I made some decisions about whether or not I was worthy of wealth, about whether or not I was living in a space of scarcity or lack. And for us, in your 30s and your 40s, when you're just now recognizing that some of the things that have happened in your life is not even like, I never had a message that said to me, my parents were not unloving or mean, or I never went a day without food. I didn't have those experiences. But things in your life history growing up, you make choices. And those choices are sometimes introduction to beliefs that put you in shame. And it silences your ability to access the truth about life, which is that abundance is available to everyone, no matter what your start is, no matter where you are raised, no matter what your parental history or background is. But we learn to keep silent. We are taught to be ashamed. We are told not to speak of where we come from, because then we will be locked out of certain rooms. Well, I am here to tell you, ain't no room going to lock you out when you stand in your purpose. Ain't no room or table going to deny your presence when you stand in the knowing that you are deserving and you are worthy of every single good thing that this life has to offer. Nothing can stand between you and what you deserve or desire in this life. Do not let anybody tell you that you do not deserve it. You are worthy. Do not let yourself tell you that you do not deserve the desire that you have in your heart. Do not let shame silence you. Do not let shame steal your joy, steal your dreams, steal your love life, steal your wealth. Do not let shame steal your access to health. I cannot imagine the shame that someone who has gotten to a state of overweight where their body has just ballooned and they don't know what to do. I cannot imagine how much you have to talk to yourself to put on gym clothes and step into a public building. That's not where my shame issues lie. But I know, I understand it. I understand where you may have that. I understand where you may have the shame of a failing marriage, where you walk into public places where people are used to seeing you and your partner, and they ask for the person and you don't know how to tell them that your marriage is breaking. I know that shame. I understand what you are feeling. And I'm here to tell you, do not let shame silence you. You stand in your knowing that you deserve love. Maybe you want your marriage to work. Somebody asks you for your partner. Oh, they're doing well, We're just not here together right now. That's okay. We're working through some things. You know how marriage is. We're getting better. We're striving towards our greatness. You have to be the person that represents your life in the way you want your life to show up. You have to live in the construct that you want for yourself. Nobody can do it for you. And the moment that you recognize that, you are the person that creates the construct that you live in, then the world is your oyster. Stop guilt, blame, and shaming yourself away from creating the life that you want. Okay, so I went over my time. I'm really passionate about this work, guys, because I know how much is available when you step on the other side of this work. I'm going to share with you some of the work that I've been doing as I step away from the shame of feeling like, because I've been in corporate my whole life, I am now stepping into this new space. So I have my new website. It's launched, stacyhines.com. And I am stepping into this new space. And I am letting go of any shame attached to the thinking that because I'm a techie and because I'm a C-suite and because I can't step into creative, I can't step into media, I can't step into... There is shame associated with greatness too. It's at all levels. People will tell you you can't have what you can't have. Listen, I had a dream of a journal 3 years ago. Do you know that I launched this journal? When I say launch, meaning I designed this journal in 2020. And I put it on Amazon in 2021. And I sat with shame Now, I know you might be thinking, but Stacey, what's there to be ashamed of? Listen, people, let me tell you something. You see, when you used to writing board reports and doing big presentations and leading workshops with CEOs and da 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 da, there is a certain construct that you start to live in. And that construct looks very different from your creative self. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. And so I decided that I wasn't going to step forward talking about my creations until I could face the conversations that I was not facing. And I had to let go of the shame. The shame of, okay, you're a big corporate C suite earning six figures, and now you're going to step into not sure what you're going to earn. Really? We're not sure what we're going to earn because I don't have the skills yet, right? And I'm so proud of my journal. Like, I mean, when I tell you, like, it's just beautiful. So it's available on Amazon now. I'm going to be linking it. It's on my website. If you go visit my website, staceyhines.com, you'll see it. You will see how I am reshaping my life away from the silence that shame had me in. So there's lots of different ways that these things show up. And I saw where somebody on IG, I think it's Alicia, wrote, we can do better. Because we can. It's available to us. And half of the time we live in shame, it's because of external people. It's because people are making us feel shame. I see it. I see when people tell other people, say them idea no good or Lord, that not gonna work. I see it. In Jamaica, we're really good at that. We're really good at shaming people. Don't let anybody else's misconceptions about what they are capable of be imprinted on you. All right. So do the work, guys. You know, we're going to be here next week, Saturday. We're going to be talking about looking back at the last 3 months and seeing where don't feel good to you, where don't feel good to you. If you don't have your year of intention PDF, I think I might, because ultimately you can create the life you want whenever you want. You don't have to wait till January 1. So if you're at April 1, if you're at March 30, and you realize, you know, I really need to go digging and seeing where I have shame in my life, download the intention, the life PDF, download the year of intention PDF, and grade yourself. Do that work. See, Chris says, yes, stop living for approval is one of the hardest but most important lessons I've ever had to learn. Yes, Chris, and I see you. Girl, I see you doing your thing. I'm so proud to know you. Right? So we have to trust ourselves and trust the worthiness that is built into our everyday life and move towards that. And it requires support, it requires intentional work, and it requires effort, but it does not mean that you're going to be stressed out, overwhelmed, and burned out. As a matter of fact, I'm the happiest I have been my entire life, honest to God. And I've let go of so many constructs that just don't serve me. And I want to help you to do the same thing because there is joy and success in ease. And we're here to do it. We're here to create it. We're here to create the life that we want in the way that we want it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I will see you next week on another epic tea time. Remember, I'm here on Saturday mornings. It's 9 a.m. Eastern time. If you're in Jamaica, we're an hour behind Jamaica, an hour behind the US now, so 8 a.m. But look out for me. I'm here, and we're going to tackle this life thing one weekend at a time. Enjoy your Saturday, and I'll see you next week. Take care.